All right, so today we're talking about negotiation. And when we're talking about negotiation, we're talking in two layers. The first layer being the freight broker to the shipper, the second layer being the freight broker to the carrier. Today we're going to be more focused on freight broker and carrier negotiation. Now, when it comes to negotiation, this is a really important part of your business. And when you really start to think about it, it's a part of your life. It's something that we do every single day, not just in business, but in life as well. We're always negotiating something, right? What is negotiation? Negotiation to me is just having a discussion about something that we want to achieve, we both want to achieve. We have certain parameters for certain things that we want to meet, and we don't want to go outside of certain parameters that we set, right? So in negotiation, we understand that sometimes you have to give a little bit to get a little bit, right? But sometimes you can end up giving away way too much, and you can find yourself in a bad situation financially when your margins are not where they need to be, your profit margins. So when you're negotiating, you have to negotiate, I believe, like your life depends on it, because it really does. Your livelihood depends on how well you negotiate. So we want to be really good at negotiating, right? Now, when we're thinking about negotiating, I want to think about it in terms of 5 areas. And we're going to look at those 5 areas today. Number one, being as freight brokers, what we want to do is to create an illusion of control. Number 2, we want to bend the truck drivers, the carriers, whoever you're negotiating with, you want to bend their reality. Number 3, we want to create systems and give our carriers systematic access to our freight. Number 4, we are going to drive a hard bargain. And number 5, what we understand is that a pleasurable experience gives us opportunities to have more of those experiences with that carrier. Because we're not trying to be a one and done relationship here. We want to create a relationship so that we can continue to move loads with these partners, right? So let's jump into it and dive into the first one, creating an illusion of control. Why is it important to be in control? I think it's important to be in control because he who has the control has a better position of strength, a better position of power in the negotiation process. And I don't think it's about who's really in control. I think it's about who you think is in control. And if you can paint the illusion that the freight broker is in control, you are in a much better position to win. How do you paint the illusion of control? Well, it's really simple. And it's really not an illusion. It is what it is. If you as a freight broker have control over freight, you know, in the investor game, they say assets under management. What I'm talking about here is freight under management. If you have a lot of freight under management, you have control, you have power in the negotiation process, because that trucker knows that he can come back to you again. He's not just coming to you this time for freight, but he's going to come to you over and over and over again. So that puts you as a freight broker in a position of power, in a position of strength. So your job, your number one priority as a freight broker is to capture control of freight, because that gives you the power. All right, next we're talking about bending, shaping, molding the reality of the person that you're working with, that carrier that you're negotiating with, right? That's really important. And doing that in a way where you're not being harsh or insulting to the person, but you have to bring them to a different understanding than they currently are. Sometimes carriers can have a really different thinking about their asset. They can think that their asset is worth $4 in this particular lane, right? And I get it. That's your truck. And you say this particular lane is worth $4 per mile in order for me to make money. That's where I need to be. I get that, right? But now at the same time, the marketplace determines the amount that that lane is going to go for. And yeah, it's your truck. You can hold out for as long as you want for that $4. But if there's a marketplace that says that the lane is at $3 per mile, then I'm certainly going to be looking to sell that lane at $3 per mile. And I want to be able to explain that to the carrier so that we understand, so that he understands the perspective I'm coming from when I'm saying $3 per mile, right? Because I don't want to damage relationships moving forward. I want to make sure that he has a good understanding of why we're at that $3 per mile, so that moving forward, we don't have hiccups when we, continue to talk about lane negotiation in other lanes, right? So it's about reshaping the thinking, giving them a better understanding of why you are at the prices that you're at, right? Not necessarily trying to force feed them and make them take that price, but explaining your price so that they understand it and giving them a choice to take it or let it alone or negotiate. But if you negotiate, you have to understand that you're negotiating against your own commissions. And if you're okay with that, negotiate. If you're not okay with that, you have to draw the line somewhere. Now, when we're talking about operating from a position of power and strength, there's some things that we want to have in place to give us that sense of authority and power, to give us that presence. One of the things that you certainly want to have as a freight brokerage is a systematic way that carriers access your freight. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have a digital load board. You don't need that, but you do have or need to have a systematic way that they can go about accessing that freight. That could simply mean your spreadsheet that you send out however often you send it out. It needs to be at the same time every day or every week so that they can say, this is a person that we can depend on for freight. This is a person or a freight brokerage that has freight all the time. We'll always be able to get freight from this freight broker. When they can see you as the freight authority, they see you in a position of power, which gives you strength, which gives you authority when it comes to negotiating prices and lanes, right? Because the more freight that I have, the more those carriers know that they're going to have opportunities after this one. They're not necessarily concerned just about this opportunity. A lot of times when carriers are dealing with certain freight brokers, they know that they're one and done. They don't usually deal with this person. They've never dealt with them before. They don't usually see any loads from that person in their emails or on load boards. So they know that this is more than likely a one and done. So they're trying to get all they can get out of the deal. With you and your brokerage, when you have a systematic way that you send out freight, you become a freight authority and you're going to get better pricing because of your access to freight. Now, next, let's talk about driving a hard bargain. I think it's absolutely necessary that you drive a hard bargain as a freight broker. And what does that actually mean? Well, to me, driving a hard bargain is just being determined, knowing what you want and being determined to get it. That's what it's all about. In negotiation, you got to know what you want and you have to be determined to get it. Not everybody is going to understand that because they operate their business different than you operate your business, and that's okay. But you have to understand your numbers, you have to understand your profit margins, where you need to be, and you have to have an acute awareness of where you are so that when you are short of where you're supposed to be, then you need to do the makeup work. You got to go in and start saying, hey, I got to improve on negotiation in order for me to get better results. Because your money depends on that. Your business depends on that, right? So think about it in terms of driving a hard bargain. When I am selling freight to carriers, it's all about me trying to get the best price. That's what it's about, getting a bargain, right? But now, don't get me wrong. I understand that the bargain is not always there to get. Sometimes I have to pay more than I want to pay. Sometimes the carrier wins. Sometimes we break even. That's just how it works. That's how negotiation works. That's how sales work. You don't always get exactly what you want, but you got to know what you want and be determined to go after it like your life depends on it. And last but not least, the whole idea is for you to create a pleasurable experience for the partners that you work with. That's what it's all about. Because what we do know is that if a person has a pleasurable experience with you, the likelihood that they'll continue to do business with you is very likely. If they have an experience that's not so pleasurable, that is kind of annoying, then they are probably going to avoid you. They won't work with you if they don't have to, right? So I want people to want to work with me. So I want to make their experience pleasurable, something that they enjoy doing. I want you to enjoy working with me. But that does not mean that I'm not going to be a hard negotiator, right? Because I still understand that it's about business. We can't lose sight of that. It is about business. It's not necessarily about trying to hurt anyone else. You know, people say it's business, it's not personal. Well, actually it is personal. It is. Business is personal. It's just an up close and personal thing, right? But I understand what people are saying when they say it's business. It's not a personal thing that I have with you. But how I would look at it is it's business. And I want to make it a personal experience, right? And we don't always agree. We're not going to always see things eye to eye, but we can agree to disagree sometimes and understand that whatever decision we make for our business. We make with the thinking that this is the best decision for the business, right? And it may be a decision that says we got to go in different directions on this, but that is okay. It's okay for us not to always work together on every single load. You know, sometimes we see numbers that work for us, and sometimes we don't. And when we don't, we say, hey, we'll catch you on the next one. When you're operating from a position of power and strength and not a position of I need a truck, you're more likely to win in negotiation. Certainly hope this information has been helpful. You want to learn more about the freight broker business? I'm going to leave you a free link in the description box. It gives you access to my 5-video series, and it's titled How the Load Movement Process Works. And it gives you the opportunity to come into the office with me, and you can watch as I move loads, talk to shippers and carriers, so that you can get a better understanding of how this business works before you come into it. Because this business is all about creating relationships, moving loads, and making money. If you can do that, you can have a long-lasting relationship with other people in this business and do very well. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your week. Until the next time, see you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.